There are a few weapons in any game that are iconic, instantly recognizable, simply because everybody knows about them. Everybody came across them. One such weapon in Warframe is the Dread, the first true traditional style critical bow in the game, and my personal favorite. So it's gonna be hard for me to be objective about it. I'm gonna be taking you from zero all the way to hero. That means that the initial part of the guide is gonna be aimed at newer players coming into the game, and there's gonna be a whole lot of explaining regarding mods, systems, damage types, damage procs, and so on and so forth. But if you're a veteran player and you already know most of this stuff, fear not, my friend, I also got your back. The later portion of the guide will conclude in an endgame setup, steel path gameplay, the full 9 yards. So with that out of the way, as always, my name is Leyzar, and this is the Dread. Let's begin by having a quick look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped. And for that, just a couple of our regular free shots. The Dread is a traditional style bow in Warframe, and that means it can be fired in two different ways. You got your quick shot, and the advantage to quick shot is, well, the fact that it's quick, but unfortunately you're only getting half the damage. In order to get the full amount of damage per projectile, you gotta fully charge the bow, then release a shot. Now, if you're doing a halfway shot, a quarter shot, you're still getting half the damage. So it's either quick shot to finish off a lower level target, or a half HP or low HP target, or go for the full shebang, the full charge up. That said, this being a projectile based attack, there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. First of all, you're going to be having projectile travel speed and projectile drop off. That means that depending on the distance between you and your target and the motion of the target, you might have to lead your target and aim slightly above enemy's head. It's simple to hit standing still targets, but we're going to have an actual gameplay demonstration later on so you can see exactly what I mean. I recommend you just practice with the bow a little bit so you can get a feeling for the actual projectiles. As you can see, it's going through my target's head and keeps on traveling. That is punch through, and we will discuss punch through just a tad later. When it comes to the usability of the Dread, there's really not a whole lot you can complain about, bearing in mind this is a traditional style bow. It does what it's supposed to. It's a high critical chance and critical damage weapon, meaning you're gonna have to go for headshots, not body shots. In Warframe, there are bonus location-based multipliers, bonus critical multipliers, all sorts of weird multipliers. Now, if I'm going to go into that, this is gonna add another 10 minutes to the vid, so check the link in the cards right now. There's a full and detailed guide on critical chance, critical damage, multipliers, how do they apply, what you should go for, yada yada, etc. And then come back to this vid. In the meantime, let's have a closer look at stats to see exactly what we're dealing with. Mod capacity is gonna be 60 out of 60. After you build your Dread, it will have the mod capacity of 30 out of 30. In order to double that mod capacity so you can get the most out of the weapon, basically any weapon in Warframe, you gotta click Actions in the modding screen and install a Orokin Catalyst. The Orokin Catalyst will be doubling your mod capacity. It costs 20 plat to have one installed, but you can farm one from the daily sortie or from Nightwave. There are other sources to obtain this catalyst, and you should only install it in the weapons that you realistically like using in Warframe, as 98% of weapons can be very powerful when you know what you're doing and what they're for, that is. Next up would be the Forma. All the symbols that I have on my mod slots represent a Forma. Into Actions, again we go and we hit Polarization. You get Forma by opening relics and then you need to craft them. Now I know that me having 123 might seem a little bit intimidating, but in Warframe, most players, if not basically all players, always craft Forma because you're gonna need a lot of these, not only for your weapons, but for your Warframes and your companions as well. So there's no such thing as too much Forma in Warframe. Mine has been formatted a total of 7 times. You can tell by the number next to the little star icon. 7 Forma. For the weapon build I'm recommending you're gonna have to get about 2 to 3 Forma. In order to Forma a weapon, you gotta max it out. Dread rank 30, then add a Forma which will reduce it to level nothing, then rank it up again to level 30. And I'm aware that sounds like a very tall task, but the more you play in Warframe, the more experience you get, or if you got a couple of friends, you can level weapons really quickly. It's really not a big deal. While it may be a big deal when you're lower in MR and you don't have additional friends to play with. So do bear that one in mind. Again, it's a bit of a chore and you should only invest in the weapons that you like. This empty arcane slot you should not see. right now. Nor do I think you see the empty Excel slot right here. For now, please ignore these two slots as they are not important to you at the current time. We're going to talk about those later in the guide. The accuracy of the weapon is 16.7. Accuracy in Warframe has always been a personal gripe of mine because the way they express it is bogus. Simply, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense on a whole lot of weapons. What you need to understand, as long as you can aim, you will get yourself that perfect headshot and it will be massively satisfying on a weapon such as the Dread. Ammo maximum is good, ammo pickup is very good, charge rate of 0.5, the time it takes to actually charge the arrow, and the magazine of 1. This is a silent weapon. This does matter when it comes to beginner level spy missions, yes, so having a silent weapon is definitely a good thing. When you're higher in MR, there are other means to bypass this whole silent thing, but for now, having a silent weapon on a spy mission, definitely a great thing. Punch rule of 2.5. 2.5 what? Fish? No. These are meters. Essentially, my arrow is going to be going through the initial target and keep traveling, dealing what can be interpreted as area of effect damage. Punch through is a fantastic stat. Keep in mind though the trajectory of your projectile. If you want to get the most out of it, you gotta think of that one as well. Reload on 0.7. This 0.7 represents the time it takes the Warframe to pull another arrow from the quiver. Riven disposition, 4 little balls out of 5 little balls. Rivens in Warframe are special mods that are tailored individually to each and every single weapons. The stats that you get on these Rivens, however, are completely down to RNG. This is a great point of discontent in the community. Now, Rivens for the Dread will be very powerful because it has 4 out of 5 little balls. How many balls a weapon has is determined by popularity and is manually set by the developer Digital Extremes. So the more popular a weapon is, you're gonna see Riven disposition lower. 1 ball, 2 balls, something of the sort. That means that the amount of stats on your Rivens will also be lower. Not necessarily their usefulness, no, the actual type of stats are down to RNG, but the amount are down to the Riven disposition. And of course, vice versa. The less popular a weapon is, the more balls it will have. And we can judge the Dread by being not a very popular weapon because it has a high Riven disposition. The price on Dread Rivens right now are pretty advantageous, so if you want to go for one, definitely do so. But if you're a beginner in Warframe, please do not forget about Rivens for now. The lowest you can go is MR8 for a Riven, if I'm remembering this one correctly. This one is MR16. And I got a doozy of a Riven, which I will show you later. Rivens can make a big difference on weapons when used correctly and when you know exactly what stats you're going for. But I would never say, hey, listen, go spend $1 million plat on it or something of the sort, unless of course you're a collector, you're a veteran, and you already know what you're getting yourself into. Trigger charge, because you gotta charge the arrow, and the quick shot damage versus the charge shot damage. As you can see, my friends, you are effectively getting double the damage on your charge shot. Critical chance and critical multipliers, however, will be the same. You need to understand that a base critical chance of 50% without any additional modifications is huge in Warframe, but the critical multiplier 2.0x I would consider to be standard, stock in Warframe. Though bear in mind, some weapons have very special gimmicks that can play around these multipliers. Even some mods can do that, and we'll talk more about that a tad later. Status chance is 20%, which is low considering the amount of projectiles we're putting into our targets, therefore the amount of damage instances we are putting into our target, therefore the chance for something to proc. You get how that one works. Status chance is a bit low on this weapon, and it is a problem which I will highlight later. The damage layout, impact, puncture, and slash. These are 3 physical types in Warframe. When it comes to physical types in Warframe, the most powerful is slash. Not because of the damage it deals when it impacts a target, but for the status proc it has. You must understand and must not confuse the damage a type of damage deals and the status proc it has. For example, impact, it deals its damage, and if it procs, then your target just goes all over the place. Essentially, it gets a little bit destabilized. Puncture, however, the puncture status effect temporarily reduces the target's damage output by up to 75% with multiple stacks. Now, the puncture proc is fantastic in high-level play in the thousands, since you will want to reduce the damage that targets can deal to you. And slash applies the most powerful damage over time in Warframe. So bear that one in mind. It's going to be important for later on. Now we're gonna have a look at a standard build, and I don't want you to flip, take it one at a time and you will understand everything by the time we're done. Serration is your flat damage. Up until level 150, 200, which let's be honest, you're not even dreaming right now of level 150, 200. Flat damage, as in percentage base damage, is the best thing to go for. After that, we need to talk about leveraging all the multipliers in Warframe. What's a multiplier? Well, it's pretty simple. Damage, percentage base damage, is a multiplier. Critical chance is a multiplier. Critical damage, another multiplier. Faction damage, another multiplier. And so on and so forth. Now, my friends, the best thing on everything, 99.2% of the time is gonna be multi-shot. Multi-shot, multi-shot, multi-shot on everything. As much as you can, wherever you can get it, on Rivens, on mods, put in as much multi-shot as you can. Multi-shot represents you firing multiple projectiles or multiple bullets or multiple whatever with a single shot. 90% multi-shot on my weapon means that I have a 90% chance at a second projectile per fire. You get how that one works? Now if you take a look at my multi-shot is at 2.5 because I also get another 60% from Vigilante armaments. That means a grand total of 150. The guaranteed one projectile that I have by default plus another 150% means that I got 2 guaranteed projectiles every single time I fire, and every single time I fire a 50% chance at a third one. That's how multi-shot works. That's why multi-shot is so important and so powerful in Warframe. I got my damage, I got my multi-shot, now I'm gonna be leveraging that high critical chance of the weapon. 50% by default, I went to 125 through the use of point strike. Now, when you're going to guaranteed crits, 125% means the following. Each and every single shot will be minimum yellow color. That means tier 1 crits. And also they have a 25% chance of going to level 2 crits, that is orange color. Level 3 crits would be red, and after level 3, which is red, they apparently ran out of colors because even tier 4, 5, 6, there's an infinite number of critical tiers in Warframe, they're all red. And again, all this information in detail is in the guide I already suggested to you. Critical damage, another multiplier, 120%. Obviously what this means, when you crit, the actual damage multiplier you're gonna be getting. Now, I got Hunter munitions on my weapon. This is an extremely powerful mod that you should make a priority in obtaining. It's very easy to get from the plains of Bubulan, if I'm not mistaken, if not just trade for somebody with it. Normally, Hunter munitions, everybody should have, well, everybody that's been playing Warframe a little bit should have plenty of, as you can see. And they're not expensive. Don't get conned like 5 plat, 10 plat, no plat. No plat whatsoever. You should get this one for free or trade them an ammo case or something of the sort. Read how this one works. 30% chance to apply a slash on critical. Yes, my chance to crit is guaranteed. I'm gonna be critting regardless after I put my point strike on. So all of the damage instances that I'm gonna be generating on my target, so in layman's terms, all the arrows I'm gonna be putting not into the walls or the ground or the sky, actual enemies, are gonna have that 30% chance to apply a slash. And as we talked earlier, if you remember, slash, the most powerful physical type in Warframe because of the damage over time it deals, the actual status effect, which is what Hunter munitions applies, bypassing the whole status chance of the weapon. It does not care about your status chance. It does not care if your weapon actually has slash on it or not. All it wants is a crit, and it bypasses that whole system and applies slash to the target. By all intents and purposes, you can have a weapon that has, or doesn't have, better said, slash on it, and with Hunter munitions on, you can apply slash to your target. This is why this mod has been overpowered as F for the last 5 or 6 years, and you must have it. Now, my friends, slash by itself is fantastic, but the damage it deals, the damage over time component, can be amplified with the most popular status effect in the game, and that one is called Vital. As you can see, I have Vital on the weapon. Vital is the elemental combination between Malignant Force, that is Toxin, and Cold from Rhyme Rounds. These are two 60-60 mods. They are quintessential 60-60 mods that you will need to farm or trade for. As you can see, they are not high in endo to max out. None of these mods are except Serration. If you don't have the endo to max out Serration, please leave 2 little balls or even 3 little balls from the top. It's not going to be a big deal. Focus your endo on multi-shot and critical chance, critical damage first, and then apply some to flat damage. Back to viral. Essentially, with a viral status proc on my target, my slashes are going to be doing a whole lot more damage. And my friends, I have just described what was the meta in Warframe for the last 2 years or so. Slash and viral, 2 peas in a pod. Viral status effect increases damage to health up to 325 with multiple stacks for a short duration. The maximum stacks you can have are 10. Even if you apply more than 10, it will still stay at 10, so the damage doesn't escalate to stupid levels. Now, this is a basic build that you should be able to put together with a little bit of effort. You do need to farm a little bit, my friends. Now, if farming doesn't scare you and you like to do vault runs, no, not vault run, lion force, no, I love that, but that's not important. What is important? Vault, like locking things in. Yes, you have the following mod, and not only critical delay. 200% critical chance. Oh, a whole lot better than 150% critical chance, definitely. But this one comes at a cost. Minus 20% fire rate, and it's 2 times for bows. So bear that one in mind. You can go for critical delay. You're going to be getting yourself 150% crit chance instead of 125, but you are sacrificing that fire rate. In order to obtain this mod and many other corrupted mods, you're going to have to do the vault runs that I talked about. Link the cards right now for a full and detailed guide on how to farm these vaults. You will need critical delay, and you will need a whole lot of other mods, corrupted mods that drop from these vaults. Corrupted mods offer you a great benefit, but also take away a little bit of something. And in specific situations, you will need those mods for best in slot builds. Not only for weapons, but there are also Warframe, and I don't know if there are companion mods as well, but you're gonna need yourself the weapon mods and the Warframe mods as well. For example, fleeting expertise is best in slot like 50% of the builds. But I digress. Back to our basic build. This is an option. I'm assuming you might have not gotten critical delay, and obtaining point strike is a lot easier. So for the sake of this demonstration, we're gonna go with this, which is as basic as it gets. I'm gonna be spawning in, well, if I spawn in high level targets like level 120, I don't believe this is very realistic for a lower MR player. What are you gonna see? Level 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe? Let's spawn in 70s. I'm gonna be spawning in Exo Gogstat Officer, as you saw there. Now, the Exo Gogstat Officer is an extremely tough target in Warframe. You don't need to worry about it until you start doing Railjack. And what is Railjack? Well, you're gonna find out what Railjack is. You will have to worry about these guys, however. Corrupted, Heavy, and the Goon. These guys right here. These are the most common heavy-duty targets in Warframe. Now, the reason why these targets are so tough is because of the damage mitigation they offer. That armor leads up to more effective HP. If you hover over any of these targets in the Simulacrum, by the way, if you don't know how to access the Simulacrum, you obtain the key from Cephalon Simaris. The Simulacrum, which is what I'm using now, is an excellent tool to test and check out things. But bear in mind that DPS on paper is different to DPS in actual gameplay. So use the Simulacrum just to test and then go out and do actual gameplay to see how something performs. That is hashtag the way. As you can see, these guys have a whole lot of ferrite armor. That means they're going to be mitigating a whole lot of my damage, and you also have some symbols underneath that ferrite armor and underneath the clone flesh. Allow me to explain what this means. You can remove the ferrite armor using enough procs, and then what will be left is cloned flesh. Armor can also be removed by some Warframe's abilities, for example Ash and his augment, and not only. For example, Hildrun with Pillage. With enough power strength, she can remove the entire armor of essentially the entire screen with a single cast. Removing the armor means you're left with clone flesh. And if you're left with clone flesh and you know you're going to be hitting clone flesh, then you need to build your weapon to actually deal bonus damage to clone flesh or to ferrite armor, depending on what you know you're gonna be doing. You see, you have those pluses and those minuses next to the symbols of the damage types that you deal. In the upper portion, next to ferrite armor, you have this little arrow with a circle. That is the damage icon of puncture, and 2 pluses next to it. Each symbol, plus or minus, represents 25%. So what can I tell about puncture and ferrite armor? it deals 50% bonus damage. Next is the symbol of corrosive, and it has 3 pluses. That means it deals 75% bonus damage against ferrite armor. Corrosive, still one of the best elemental combos in the game. You're gonna be combining electricity and toxin. Underneath that, you get the little, well, it's a semi-moon kind of thing. It's a slash. That's the symbol for slash and a single minus. Bear in mind, that does not represent what the proc does. That simply represents what the impact damage does. That's a reduction of 25%. You get how that one works. Once again, I reiterate, it's very important to know the difference between a damage type and what kind of damage it does on impact and the proc it can generate. You gotta treat these as two very different things, even though they're caused by the same element. Back to what I was. Yes, the Exogogstad officer are a lot more tougher because they have more ferrite armor and more clone flesh. Therefore, their effective HP is higher. We're going to be spawning in level 70s. I don't even know if you can get an Exogogstad lower than level 70, but we're going to be testing out the weapon like so. These are the corrupted heavy goons, and as we talked earlier, we're going to go for a headshot. Now here's my question to you. Do you understand what is happening right now to these targets or not? When I hit a headshot, I just got a slash and then the target got disintegrated. It was destroyed by the damage over time generated by that slash. Look at that. Beautiful. 25,000 something. Look at that. 8,000 damage over time. It's gonna kill off the target. When I hit a target, I'm gonna go for a body shot now, even though you should go for a headshot. You're gonna be generating different procs on the target. This one has 2 slashes and a viral proc. That viral proc amplifies the damage of the slash greatly, which is why I was doing 8,000 something with just a body shot, since headshots will be generating higher values. Look at that, 16.5 something of the sort. It's important for you to understand and to read what you're doing to the target so you can understand what is your strength and what is your weakness when you're using a weapon. I just hit this target and nothing happened. Almost nothing. Even though I got a viral proc on his head, there was no slash damage. And if you don't get slash damage out of the weapon, you're essentially dead in the water. The weapon shines absolutely fantastically when it does that damage over time, but when you don't get the slash, it's simply underwhelming. Yes? What do we learn from this? We are reliant on procs. So when you're building a weapon, or when you're building a weapon such as this, you need to be sure that your weapon is reliable when it comes to procs if you want consistency out of its performance. I just hit a head and I got what? What did I got there? An impact proc. The damage over time is not there. Therefore, the performance is not there. Now, realistically speaking, this weapon is absolutely fantastic for taking out these level of targets. Honestly, you're not going to have any issue getting through the star chart, getting through whatever. The only issue you do have, the weapon doesn't have real area of effect performance if you don't count the punch through. In order to make use out of the punch through, of course, you will have, look at that, beautiful, exploded that target. You will have to think about the trajectory of the weapon. Honestly, for lower level content, I'm talking about up until level 100, you don't really need anything more than this. Watch me use the punch through in this shot. Take a look at that. All that damage over time. And depending on how lucky I was with the procs, this target is essentially dead. And this target, basically nothing happened to it. And this one is on 50%. Again, reliant on procs. Make sure to use that punch through to great effect. Like so. And well, my friends, this kinda wraps up the new player portion of the guide. You should have all the information you need about the Dread, and not only. If you got any questions, please put them down in the comment section down below. Now, granted, I might not be able to get to all of them, but we have fantastic people in this community, fantastic players that would love to answer your questions. And you can also jump on our Discord, plenty of people there to answer your Warframe related questions. Now let's say you're further along in your Warframe experience or quote-unquote career. You're gonna be looking at something like this. First of all, I got a Riven, and as we discussed earlier, Riven's extremely powerful. Take a look at this one. 132% multi-shot. Essentially, both the multi-shot mods combined from earlier, Vigilante Armaments and Split Chamber on a single mod, and 263% critical chance. Not even critical delay offers you that much, with a negative minus zoom, which most players, if I remember correctly, still prefer the minus zoom, even though on something like a sniper gun like this one, like a sniper bow, to go for headshots, the zoom might actually be useful depending on the circumstance. This is a Riven that I had from 2018. Basically, I kind of started, quote-unquote, my Warframe journey with a Riven such as this one. It's absolutely freaking beautiful. We're gonna enter Galvanized Aptitude. This is an amazing, absolutely amazing mod to have on the Dread. It's gonna work beautifully well, and you gotta get yourself this one if you haven't already. And Galvanized Chamber, which again, fully stacked out, is gonna be offering you a whole lot more multi-shot than the base version, but you gotta fully stack it out. In the Excellus slot, because we're now veterans, yes, we know what an Excellus slot is, we're going to be using projectile flight speed, which will make us technically better players, in the sense that the projectile will be traveling faster, it's easier to get that headshot, and the projectile drop-off will be more gradual, therefore easier to contain and control. Primary Merciless in the Excellus slot, we can go for a couple of choices, but Primary Merciless is going to be the best in slot on this one, since most of our targets will be dying under the effects of Slash and Viral, and the same 60-60 mods, and I will talk about those 60-60 mods just a tad later. Spawning in, once again, the same targets as before, only this time, honestly, shooting level 70s with a build such as that is pointless. We're going to go up to level 165. And then we're gonna go for actual gameplay. The Corrupted Heavy Goons on the right. Keep in mind this is a galvanized setup with an arcane, so we're gonna have to get a couple of kills in order for the build to be in full swing. First of all, the color of my crits has changed to be consistently red. That is tier 3 and above. Beautiful, absolutely fantastic. Now you can get tier 3 crits with the basic build as well because of Vigilante Armaments. Vigilante Armaments has a chance to increase or upgrade your criticals to the next tier. It's not a huge chance, but still there's a chance. So you might see on that one red crits as well. Going for headshots, we got a couple of stacks now, and as you can see, the damage is absolutely fantastic. 60,000 slash there, 208,000 slash there. We got 56,000 slash there. We got viral on the weapon, 150,000 slash there, and essentially the targets are getting annihilated. 265,000 over there. No slash, no cigar, baby. That's what happens when you get no slash. Now this should look pretty blooming impressive, because you know what? The weapon is definitely impressive, especially when you manage to land the correct shot like that. It's a way of playing, but the problem is the consistency of the viral proc out of the weapon is simply not there. So if you're going to be using outside sources to obtain the viral proc, you're no longer going to need these two mods. How can I get a viral proc from outside? Well, you can use your secondary weapon, for example, to proc viral on your targets, or you can use the ever so popular Immortal Panzer Vulpaphyla, the companion, which I will be showcasing next. We're going to be using Corrupted Bane of the Prime Bane of the Corrupted. These Corrupted mods are a separate multiplier, which is why they're so powerful, and they double dip into Slash, if I remember correctly. Honestly, if you want the most amount of damage, you're gonna have to go for these, even though personally I really dislike them. And the last slot will be more critical damage with a bladed round. This is a non-kill effect. We're gonna go for some actual gameplay right about now. Welcome to the Void, my friends. Now this is Steel Path versus the Corrupted, and we're gonna go for a couple of kills with the Dread. Gotta go for that headshot and gotta get the Panzer Vulpaphyla a chance to apply vital procs to the target. This being a galvanized setup with no flat damage, we're gonna have to get a couple of kills. But you can already see the power of this absolutely outstanding weapons. I mean, you cut targets to bits. Look at that. Absolutely sensational. Now granted, you should never let a target get that close to you, so you can simply latch from a wall and get yourself headshots like so. Bear in mind to pull the arrow all the way back. In using critical delay, the problem is I am actually shooting slower than before. That's a 236 bleed on that target. I essentially one-shotted that Eximus with no problem whatsoever, because this is what the Dread does. It is a bit on the slow side, so you can go for point strike instead of critical delay if shooting this fast is simply not good enough for you. The corpus are not an issue. The corpus are never an issue in terms of their survivability. The corpus are an issue, however, when it comes to the abilities that they have. They deal a lot more damage than something like the Grenier and are pesky to deal with, but their survivability is always in question. As for my damage, my friends, you can essentially one-shot everything that is in this mission. You will not be able to one-shot levels in the thousands, I mean level 8,000, 9,000 and whatever else, but very few players legitimately actually spend time to do that. That's right, this Butcher, 174,000 there, absolutely annihilating whatever stands before you. And keep in mind, I'm not even using all of Citrine's powers. If I was to use Citrine's powers, then essentially, look, it's even worse than before. Worse in the sense that you absolutely destroy whatever stands before you. She's simply that powerful. Now you can blame the Dread for being a little bit on the slow side. You can make it a bit faster depending on the mod. You can even put some fire rate. You're going to be getting X2 because it's a bow and all whatnot. But honestly, I don't think you need more than this. I can even quick shot at this level. Look. Yeah, so if you're in a pinch or you have a bit of an issue, you can simply quick shot. It's no problem whatsoever. I'm trying not to use my Warframe abilities that much simply because I want to show you what the weapon can do by itself. But of course, when you're doing Steel Path and all whatnot, I'm assuming you're going to be using everything at your disposal. And if you're interested in this absolutely beautiful Warframe, powerful Warframe, and all-rounder, tanky, damagey Warframe, Citrine, I got a full and detailed build guide in the cards right now. As for Steel Path, I don't know what else to show you, my friends. That's kind of it. The weapon is fully capable of mowing through it without any issue whatsoever. Those sentries, however, since they're immune to crowd control and to damage over time, can be a little bit a pain in the butt. But as you can see, no problem whatsoever. Oh, Corrupted Heavy Goon. Headshot. The 1.7 million. Slow it down. Go back on it. That was a 1.7 million bleed on that Corrupted Heavy Goon. Need I say more? 875,000 on that one. When it comes to Warframe buffs, however, you can employ a whole lot of tricks, and there's nobody better to buff weapons than Lady Mirage Prime and her outstanding buffs, her clones and her Eclipse ability. When it comes to the actual build, something simple like this, corrosive projection against heavily armored targets will definitely help. It's not as powerful as it used to be, but go for the aura of your choosing. If your build calls for, I don't know, growing power, melee guidance, or whatever else, simply go for that. If you're a newer player, Energy Siphon should be a good friend to you, at least at the start. I believe it has been nerfed, it was better, and it's not a whole lot of energy, but it's better than nothing. Arcanes, however, my friends, these are a lot more impactful. You can go for something like Arcane Avenger. Another 45% critical chance. This is bonus additive after simply stacking on top of what you already have. That means that it doesn't care about the base critical chance of any weapon. It simply gives you 45. So a weapon can have 0 with this one up 45%. And here's the biggest beauty about this one. It applies to your primary weapon, secondary weapon, and to your melee weapon at the exact same time. One of the best arcanes in Warframe. Is it needed on the Dread? Well, considering the amount of crits we do, no, not really. But if you want to go to the next level of crits, I mean, you definitely can. Let's take a look really quick. 281.5% critical chance. That means guaranteed tier 2 and an 81.5% chance at tier 3. If I'm going to be using this one, I'm going to be going to tier 3. Now we're going to do this one just for the fun of it. You don't necessarily need to. Also, one of your arcanes should be dedicated to your Warframe, and most often than not, Energize is the arcane that makes a lot of builds happen. They make them streamlined, they make it possible, and you're gonna look at this arcane and say, I never even heard of this one. This is an endgame arcane, and I wouldn't really worry about this one for the time being. What you can go for is for fire rate. You saw earlier how my weapon was a little bit sluggish. I was dealing a lot of damage, but still the arrow pulling back was a bit on the slow side, so we can go with Arcane Acceleration. This one on critical hit, which we do plenty of, 40% chance for 90% fire rate to primary weapons, excludes shotguns for 9 seconds, and the usual +1 Arcane Revive. So we can go for something of the sort. I'm gonna be spawning, oh, and the Panzer Vulpi for the vital procs. Hello, Vulpi, for the vital procs. You can also go for a Sentinel, any Sentinel you want, just make sure that on that little Sentinel's weapon you have the Vigilante mods for that chance to upgrade your critical strikes. It's not really needed on the Dread, however, it's more useful on other weapons. We're gonna be unpausing the AI so they can hit me and I can get my absolutely glorious buffs, yes? We're gonna activate Empower for Mirage, her 4 ability that I replaced in the helmet system. You don't know the helmet system? Forget about it for now, and then activate her free ability Eclipse for 840%, but in mind 840% Eclipse does not mean 840% more damage, it means a whole lot more than that. And her ever so lovely clones, beautiful. Now we're gonna go for headshots on these targets. 1.3 million bleed, 1.2 million bleed, and bear in mind this is without vital procs because my Panzer Vulpaphyla, I forgot to activate invulnerability for her and she's kinda dead. And by kind of dead, I mean dead. Look at that. Look at that. The problem was with dealing so much damage, I don't even get to see the vital procs, yes? Because the targets are simply not tough enough to take the damage so I can see a high value proc. Like we saw earlier that, what was that, 1.7, 1.8 mil in steel path. Shot through the wall there thanks to the punch through, because you can use the punch throughs. Let me see if I can, let's see. Let me showcase punch through. Okay, that was too much. Like this. See? Beautiful, isn't it? And I do... Oh, that was a vital proc too. Fantastic. The Vulpaphyla is back. And I think, my friends, that is pretty much it. There's really not a whole lot else I can tell you about the Dread. I'm gonna sum up my feelings on the weapon. It's hard for me not to be attached to this weapon. I was so excited when I first saw the Dread, when I first got the Dread. Granted, the Stalker did kill me on its first attempt, and I was asking my friends, what the hell happened? I didn't do anything. I was just there, and then I was on the floor. And of course, they all laughed at me because they were bad people. But then they told me, check your inventory, and I saw the Dread. I made the weapon. It was an amazing experience. And you know what? There are still very few things in Warframe which are more satisfying than landing that perfect headshot with the all-rounder, with the extreme critical weapon that the Dread is. And you know what? I think you guys will have a whole lot of fun with it as well. It may not be one of the most meta weapons in the game, but you know, at the end of the day, it's also about fun, not just about the meta. If you care about more powerful weapons, however, look at the cards right now for a top 10 primary weapons in Warframe. As always, my name has been Leyzar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe only if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me, let me know in the comment section down below. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. And if you love the content and you want to help me keep making it or enable me to keep making it, consider supporting us via Patreon. There will be a link in the upper portion of the screen, top right about now. But until next time, my friends, bye-bye.